Great Barrow, Essex. A quiet suburb, tree-lined streets, tidy houses. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone else. It was the kind of town where doors were left unlocked, and neighbors greeted each other over hedges with a smile. But even in the calmest of neighborhoods, darkness can creep behind closed doors. Sometimes the most unimaginable horror is hidden where you least expect it, inside your own home. This is the story of Virginia McCullough, 36 years old, the youngest daughter of John and Louise McCullough, who murdered her parents, concealed their bodies for 4 years, and manipulated everyone around her to maintain a facade of normalcy. Virginia's parents, John and Louise, 70 and 71 years old, were retirees, living quietly with their youngest daughter. They had 5 children in total, but Virginia's presence in the house had always been central. She claimed to be an aspiring artist, full of ambition and charm. At first glance, she appeared devoted, dutiful, and eager to contribute to the family. Her parents trusted her. They believed in her vision for the future. But trust can be a dangerous thing when wielded against you. John was a university lecturer, a man who seemed devoted to his career and deeply passionate about writing. Outside of work, he enjoyed quiet pastimes like golf and snooker. His wife Louise was seen as a caring grandmother who doted on her grandchildren. Louise had a lot of friends, mostly made through her pen pal hobby. At first glance, they might have appeared to be a respectable, ordinary family. But to those who lived nearby, something about them always felt off. John was known for his drinking and for being harshly strict and controlling with his daughters, so much so that each of them left home as soon as they had the chance. Despite living in a friendly, tight-knit neighborhood, he kept his distance, never exchanging pleasantries, never even offering a goodbye after paying his rent or finishing his shopping. Louise, meanwhile, was often described as withdrawn, unsmiling, and unusually quiet. She never seemed to mind John's cold and domineering behavior, which left the unsettling impression that, in their silence, they were united. But there is always the daughter that seems to be more devoted than the rest, and to this family, that was Virginia, aka Ginny. Ginny was described by neighbors and the locals as chatty and more outgoing than the rest of her family. She had a dark sense of humor but was funny. She seemed friendly to everyone, well, more like annoying and needy to most. She walked in the neighborhood, chatting local shopkeepers up and buying them presents, coffee, and telling them stories. She was always full of stories and drama. And to most, she seemed peculiar, but innocent enough. By 2019, Ginny had been hiding a secret, a massive debt accrued in her parents' names, nearly 60,000 euros by some estimates, all covered with forged documents, false explanations, and increasingly elaborate lies. She told her parents they had lost money to scams. She spun stories of bad investments and online misfortune, always careful to maintain the illusion that she was helping, not harming. It was a careful, calculated manipulation, a skill she honed to perfection over time. This, you see, was part of Ginny's personality. She made up elaborate lies even when there was no point. She once told some of the local shopkeepers that she was pregnant, even creating a fake bump. She lied about almost every aspect of her life, which naturally led to her parents, who thought of her as being a well-qualified and employed hard-working person, to believe that she had their interests at heart. After all, she was the only one who stayed behind. June 2019 was the breaking point. Ginny knew her deception was unsustainable. The debts were mounting, the pressure increasing, and the only way to prevent her parents from discovering the truth was permanent silence. She began acquiring the tools for murder, prescription drugs, and knife. She mapped out the house, noting where she could commit the crimes with minimal risk of interruption. Every move was deliberate, every choice cold and calculated. On the evening of June 17th, Virginia laced her father's drink with crushed medication mixed with alcohol. John McCullough, trusting as ever, drank it. By the next morning, he was dead. And then came her mother, Louise, who was also drugged but not fatally. Fearing discovery, Ginny struck decisively. In the quiet of the house, she bludgeoned and stabbed Louise to death. Her mother listening to the radio in the same room where she had spent decades raising her children. The aftermath of that night was as chilling as the murders themselves. John's body was hidden in a makeshift tomb in the study, stacked with sleeping bags and breeze blocks to prevent detection. Louise's body was concealed in a wardrobe upstairs, wrapped tightly in a sleeping bag. Now get this, for 4 years, Jenny lived in that house, in the shadows of her own crime. The audacity of what followed is almost unimaginable. Ginny sent birthday cards to her siblings, sent messages claiming her parents were traveling, and maintained the illusion that the household was functioning normally. She told people different lies every time, like her parents had retired to the Clacton area on Essex's Sunshine Coast, or that they were unwell, traveling, you name it. She exploited her parents' finances, gambling away 21,000 euros on online betting sites. She sold their possessions, even impersonating her father to claim early access to his pension. Every action reinforced the facade of normalcy, while underneath, the house contained the bodies of her victims, silent witnesses to her duplicity. The isolation brought by the COVID-19 pandemic helped her maintain the lie. Friends and family visited less frequently. Neighbors noticed little. One even stated that the curtains were always drawn and you couldn't see if anybody was in the house. The perfect cover, built meticulously over time, was holding, until it wasn't. September 2023. A concerned doctor noticed something troubling. The McCulloughs hadn't been seen in years, and their health records suggested alarming gaps. Police were called in to investigate. Officers entered the Palm Hill home and were immediately struck by an unusual stillness. Something felt off. And then they discovered it. The human remains of John and Louise McCullough.
Is there anything in the pocket we should know about?
Yes, there is. Can I take you to it?
No, you can tell me.
Can we go in there for a second, just so I can tell you something about what's in there?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then
Just tell us
the only
something
reason
about
I
what's in
said
there.
I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit more quieter.
Yeah.
Is it here on there?
Yeah.
Mind your feet, so obviously we put
Honestly,
that
I'm not that dangerous.
No, it's fine.
I know, but obviously I've got to be careful. My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
What about
say,
your mum?
a little bit more complicated.
Ginny, seemingly unfazed, assured officers of her cooperation and told them that her father's body was in the sitting room. And her mom? Well, that's a little bit more complicated. Mom is in a sleeping bag in a wardrobe upstairs. The quiet suburban house had become a silent tomb, but Ginny wasn't done surprising and taunting the police. When she was being handcuffed, she calmly said, quote, "Cheer up, at least you've caught the bad guy," end quote. Ginny was arrested, and under interrogation she confessed. The meticulously constructed world of lies, deception, and concealment collapsed in moments. She said, "I did know that this day would come eventually." Virginia's case fascinates criminologists and psychologists alike. Here was a woman capable of long-term manipulation of her family, deceptive communication over time, convincing others that nothing was wrong, committing murder without hesitation, then maintaining her deception for 4 years. She exhibited traits of calculated sociopathy. Her charm masked predatory instincts. Her lack of remorse allowed her to live in the house with the bodies of her parents, conduct their affairs, and manipulate her siblings and community. It was a textbook case of trust weaponized into control. In 2024, Virginia McCullough pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder. At Chelmsford Crown Court, the court heard the full extent of her manipulation, the calculated planning, and the years-long deception. She was staring at the floor the whole time, emotionless. The judge described her crimes as callous and calculated. Ginny was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 36 years. For her siblings and the community, justice came at the cost of unimaginable trauma. Her sister, Louise Hopkins, who had become estranged from her parents in 2018 due to her father's drinking and her mother's behavior, finally broke her silence, stating that, "I have forgiven her for what she's done, but I'm still coming to terms with what has happened." What makes this case so haunting is not only the murders themselves, but the way they were carried out, quietly, methodically, hidden in plain sight for years. It's a reminder that evil often wears familiar faces, that danger can lurk behind the people we trust most. Virginia McCullough's story is not just about death. It is a story about trust betrayed, innocence lost, and the fragility of the world we think we understand. Even now, the McCullough family struggles with the aftermath. Lives have been irrevocably changed. Siblings are estranged, haunted by the betrayal of the youngest daughter they once trusted. And yet, in recounting this story, we remember not only their horror, but the victims, John and Lois McCullough, and the tragic lives they built, cut short in the most unimaginable way. Virginia McCullough lived with her parents' secrets for 4 years. The question we are left with is this: how well do we really know those closest to us, and what darkness might be hiding behind the doors we think are safe? Thank you for listening to this episode of Crime Alley Documentaries. Until next time, stay safe. Please leave any theories or comments you might have for us down below. We're really interested to know what you think about this case.